After 8 years, Knox County Mayor Glenn Jacobs is ready to step away from that role. In those 8 years, a lot has happened in this county, a lot of growth, a lot of change. We are going to be talking to the mayor for the next hour or so to talk about his time in office, what he's most proud of, the changes he would like to see going forth in Knox County, and what his future looks like. With that, let's turn to Knox County Mayor Glenn Jacobs. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Robin. I appreciate it.
8 years.
Yeah. You know, when I first went into office, it seemed like a long time, and now it seems like it's just the blink of an eye.
Yeah. How are you feeling right now as you're getting ready to bid farewell?
I still have some more work to do. We have, as we record this, about 3.5 months left until the next mayor comes into office, whoever that might be. So my job has shifted somewhat now into helping that person make the transition. A lot goes into the mayor's position that before you get into that position, you probably don't realize. There's just a lot. I mean, Knox County is a big operation. We're the capital of East Tennessee, so regionally there's a lot of stuff that is involved as well. So I have that, and then, you know, just proceeding with the normal things that I would be doing as mayor, as well as some projects that we're trying to wrap up before the next person comes into office.
We're going to get into that going forth, but I want to step back and I want to talk about your time, your tenure as Knox County Mayor. What are you most proud of?
On a policy side, the thing I'm most proud of is that I promised that I wouldn't raise property taxes, and we have been able to do that. It has not been easy. Inflation's a problem for local governments, just like it is for households and for businesses. In 2018, $100 obviously bought you $100 worth of stuff. Now it takes $130 to buy what $100 did back then. And, you know, we do things that, like paving the roads, we have to buy asphalt. We buy gasoline, diesel fuel. When we're constructing things, we're using steel and concrete and fiber optic line, cable, and all the things that you normally go into that, as well as we have talented people that work for Knox County, and we have to be competitive in that area as well. So that's been a challenge, and we've had to figure out how to overcome that. I'm very proud that we've been able to do that. You know, even before I went into office, you hear this constant refrain and drumbeat that we have to raise taxes. My view is, we're not asking people for their money. We're telling people you're going to give us your money or else. And folks don't really have a choice. And a lot of people have a hard time making ends meet anyway. So we need to do everything that we possibly can to be good stewards of that money. I will never forget walking into my office one day, and there was an older lady in the office lobby, and she was crying. Her taxes, because of reappraisal and some other issues, which were not the county's fault, but nevertheless, her property taxes had gone way up. She was on fixed income, and she barely had enough money to pay for her property taxes. She was just not expecting that bill. And that really stuck with me as to how the damage that taxes can do. You know, obviously we want to do things, we want to pave the roads, all those sort of things, but at the same time we have to be very mindful of people like her. And I've kept that top of mind. So policy-wise, that's the most important thing to me. Personally, I feel that I always made the right decision based upon what I thought was right, my principles. You know, ultimately, my job is to uphold the United States and the state of Tennessee Constitution, as well as our charter. You know, I feel that I've done that. So even though things may not have always turned out like I wanted them to, you know, you make decisions based upon the information you have at that time. And sometimes things change. You're like, man, I would have done that differently if I'd have known, but I didn't know.
To that point, yeah. What would you change?
One thing that, you know, the one thing, this is more of a personal issue than anything else. You know, I can't, looking back, I can't say, oh, I would have done this different or done this different. I'm operating on what I have at that time. But there was a situation in which this was during the COVID years, and we made the decision to furlough some county employees. We had shut down these departments, so the folks weren't working anyway, but they were still getting paid. The federal government, I think, had the CARES Act, which would help with their income, as well as we were helping them with state unemployment. So the folks that we were furloughing, the vast majority of them were not taking any sort of pay cut. It wasn't going to impact them at all. Benefits would keep on going and all those sort of things. I wanted to be the one to make the announcement because I wanted to reassure people that work for the county that you're not just getting, basically going to lose your income. It was leaked, and the media, did their job, and found out about it. And made the announcement before I was able to, which caused a lot of consternation among county employees. We thought that the leak had come from within my office, and I was very upset. I dressed down my team, which I don't normally do, and I wish I hadn't done that because I was just emotional. I lost control of my emotions, and ultimately we found out that wasn't the case. And I had jumped to a conclusion that I shouldn't have. And as a leader, that was a shortcoming on my part. And I learned from that. I always have to be in control of my emotions. I'll never forget coming into the office one day and, someone saying to me, "Are you in a good mood today?" Yeah. It's like, and they literally said that sometimes they could tell when I wasn't in a good mood, and that would have an impact on everyone in the office. So I realized that, I set the tone emotionally, and I had to do a better job of doing that, of keeping my emotions intact. And even if something was bothering me, and even if I was upset about something, I couldn't allow other people to see that because it impacted their ability to do their job. So the things, again, I can't look back and say, I'd have done that differently because I have that information now, making the decision based upon what I did back then. But the times that I made or acted in a way that I shouldn't have, that would be one. I was disappointed in myself.
You bring up COVID.
Yeah.
How hard was it to govern for you to lead this county during something we had never experienced before in our lives?
For me, it was especially difficult because, as you know, I was not among most of the mainstream when it came to COVID.
Right.
I thought that it was a serious health issue, but as I said, I took an oath to defend the United States Constitution and the Tennessee State Constitution. I felt that many of the things that were going on were overreach and were contrary to those documents. And ultimately, if we do not abide by those documents, we can forget about everything, because if we do not have laws which are immalleable, that don't change, we're in big trouble. And I felt that basically a lot of folks, especially at the higher levels of the federal government, had panicked, and that was radiating through everything. And instead of taking, again, we weren't in control of our emotions really as a society. And we weren't taking a clear look and saying, okay, if we do this and we start shutting down businesses and we start straining or breaking supply chains and all of these different things, there was this idea that the economy was like a light switch or a dimmer. And I heard that we could just turn it on or off. That's not how an economy works. I mean, when you start messing around with things, it can take years before things return to normal. And for me, it was we needed to take a much more focused approach. We knew off the bat who the vulnerable groups were people who had comorbidities, immunocompromised, and older folks. We need to focus our resources on those people, and then the rest should just be common sense. But, some of the things that were happening as far as shutting down businesses, we don't even know where the social distancing thing came from at this point. Looking back, even the CDC's like, yeah, we don't know where that came from. It's just someone's idea. And the problem was a lot of these ideas were being put into practice, and those did have consequences.
But to that point, it was a time of great uncertainty. No one knew anything about anything when it came to COVID.
Right. And that's, at this point, when I look back and I think, that's why I don't criticize folks as much as I would have initially, because you realize that, it was a difficult period. At the same time, we have to trust people to make decisions. And the folks had the information, the general population had the information. And what we were doing, not me, but what a lot of government officials were doing, was not allowing people to exercise the freedom that is our birthright as Americans. And frankly, some politicians were doing that as a power grab. And you can see that, there was a lot of, rules for thee, but not for me. If I'm the mayor of Chicago, no one else can go get their haircut, but I can. If I'm the governor of California, restaurants are shut down, but I can go to my favorite restaurant. If I'm the governor of Michigan, all these things are happening, like arbitrary decisions, but my family can go out on their boat. Those are the things that really bothered me. And again, I felt that we have to be very cognizant in our country of overreach. And frankly, folks had been frightened so much. I mean, you see what happened in California where they're shutting down churches. And this country is literally founded on religious freedom, So, yeah, we have to give people, hey, this is an issue, and we all need to be aware of it. But at the same time, we have to respect people's ability to use their own judgment in many cases.
I want to pull it back to just a few minutes into our discussion. You said the thing you're most proud of is not raising taxes. And your job right now, as you get ready to segue out, is to help prepare that next person who's going to take that seat. Betsy Henderson just received the Republican nomination for Knox County mayor. She, too, has said she will not raise taxes. But then to your point, we have to make improvements, infrastructure improvements, pave roads. How can this keep going forward? Being respectful of, yes, people are going to have to pay more, but we have to pave roads. We have to keep up with the tremendous growth at Knox County. Keep being kicked down the road?
Well, it hasn't been kicked down the road. When you look at other parts of the country, New York City has some of the highest taxes in the country, and they also have some of the worst roads. It's a matter of prioritizing things, and some of the issues that we deal, say, with infrastructure really start at the state level. We can widen our smaller roads, and that's great, but it's like, okay, now now your capillaries are in better shape, but your arteries are still clogged. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest issues is I-40/75. And I talked to Mayor Farragut, Ron Williams, about this all the time. Ron's exactly right. What happens with the congestion in West Knox County, which is, it's the county, that's not the county, that's the state and the federal government. When that gets clogged up, then people get on Kingston Pike. Then Kingston Pike gets congested. Then they start getting off onto the other roads, and it just kind of cascades. We see that in other areas as well, where we have and I'm not throwing dispersions at the state. It's just it's more than just the county saying, hey, we want to spend a lot of money on roads. We need to have, and when the state's trying to do this, we all have limited resources, but it really starts there in saying, okay, when we get these in good shape, it will actually help our smaller roads, but it gives us an incomplete picture because right now, since, say, the main arteries are not always, there's some issues there. Well, if we spend a lot of money here, have we spent that money effectively? And we work with TDOT on these things, and again, they're just like we are. They're constrained with their budget. Money does not grow on trees, but we have to look at it that way, and not just say, and I think that people do this sometimes, frankly, that, oh my gosh, if we just spend a lot of money, it's going to fix the problem. Mm-hmm. We have to spend the money in an effective manner. One of the, when you look at what's happened since I've been mayor, we haven't raised taxes. We put money into our rainy day fund a lot. We've put money into our debt reserve fund a lot. So it's not like we're starved for revenue, okay? Roads are very expensive, mm-hmm. and certainly, we've made some investments there as well. Shad Road is a massive project, the biggest in county history. That will be done in a few years. One of the issues with Shad Road, though, is part of the extension is from Middlebrook Pike to Lovell Road. That's actually the state's responsibility. So we're going to have this beautiful 4-lane guttered and curbed highway that's going to end up in a choke point with a 2-lane road. And we've done all this work, and I think the state will eventually move on that, and we're working with them. But that's what I'm saying is like there has to be coordination, and it's not just throwing money at the project. If we don't make good decisions that are effective, cost effective, then we're just wasting money.
Let's talk about growth, because that plays hand in hand into the need for improved infrastructure. We've had tremendous growth in Knox County. Do you feel it's been too fast, too slow, or just right?
So that's not something that I control. And I think sometimes people believe that, the government can regulate people moving here, and that's not the case.
We're just an attractive place where people want to come.
I would hope that's what a lot of folks, I would hope, would realize is, do you want to be the place where everyone wants to come to, or do you want to be the place where people are moving away from? I want to be the place that's attractive and people are coming to. Now, that does present a set of challenges, obviously, and infrastructure is one of those. What we've done as far as trying to address this is look at the root of what I would consider the infrastructure issues and the land use issues. That is outdated zoning.
This is advanced Knox.
This is advanced Knox. A lot of the reason for advanced Knox was to update our zoning codes so that we could get the smart growth that everyone talks about. When you look at Hardin Valley, which is an issue, guess what? Guess what caused that? Is the zoning codes we have in place. So we got the 3 units per acre everywhere, no retail, no services. We're trying to avoid that in other parts of the county with advanced Knox by saying, okay, what we really want to do is we want to see like town centers and town hubs, and we want to see more residential growth in the areas where the infrastructure is already there. Tazewell Pike, we have 4-lane roads and 4-lane highways in the county that, they're just not really utilized. Then you look, and one of the things that's interesting about Hardin Valley, by the way, is Hardin Valley Road 20 years ago, 25 years ago, was supposed to have been a 5-lane road.
Really?
Yes. And there was a lot of pushback because the people living in Hardin Valley at the time didn't want growth.
And then
you got the growth without the infrastructure to really support it. We're trying to avoid that with advanced Knox and saying, look, we've got these beautiful 4-lane roads. That's where we need to have the growth. And that way we don't have to spend tons of money building roads all over the place. One of the, I think one of the more neglected facts about advanced Knox is the fiscal considerations. And if we were to go and move forward, which the map does, but if we were to continue to move forward as we had planned, it actually saves the county millions of dollars in infrastructure costs because we're not building roads to developments because the land's cheaper over here, but the infrastructure doesn't support it. To me, it's really more of a core issue, and obviously we're all going to point and say, oh, this is, Hardin Valley's an issue. Well, why did that happen? And the reason is because the foundation that was set, that's what you're going to get. You get an unintended consequence by thinking, if we limit it here, but then all of a sudden it's going to stop, and it's not going to stop. You're basically just squeezing Jell, and it just goes everywhere.
So Betsy Henderson, the Republican nominee for the mayor's position, has said is not a supporter of advanced Knox.
Right.
If she is elected and this does not go forward, is that a mistake?
That's going to be up to her. I do worry that Betsy's a fiscal conservative and doesn't want to raise taxes. And frankly, the way that I was able to not raise taxes, and the way that Tim Burchett was able to not raise taxes, is yes, we found efficiencies. At the same time, we also experienced an increase in our tax base. And that's especially true on the retail side. We need more retail out in the county. That will help not only 68% of the cash registers in the city of Knoxville, wonderful, really good for the city. And they do pay 72% of that goes to schools. So they do support schools, but then 28% goes to the city. Mm-hmm. You think about Turkey Creek, the county does not collect a dime in sales tax at Turkey Creek. That's the city and Farragut, So we have our responsibilities to provide certain services too, but because of our zoning, we can't sometimes have the revenue support that we need because of a lack of retail and a lack of commercial. And that was another thing about Advanced Knox, I think, that was a little just glossed over, was the importance of, can you imagine how much better Hardin Valley would be if we'd had town centers and people didn't have to drive 20 minutes to the grocery store
in traffic.
Yeah, exactly. it helps mitigate some of the congestion, and then it also helps bring more money into the county through sales tax. So you're going to have to figure out how to thread that needle. If you don't want to raise taxes, but you do have ongoing bills, how are you going to pay for that? And again, no offense to anybody, but you're following Tim Burchett, who most places would be considered insanely fiscally conservative, and then you're following me, and our budget is actually leaner than when Mayor Burchett was in office. Obviously, you can come in and do some things and cut some stuff, but there just isn't a whole lot of fat in our budget that you can realize some huge cost savings. I don't think.
We're going to be, of course, watching this as this all plays out. You came into this office as an outsider. Do you still consider yourself, or do you still think you are an outsider, or have you made your way into that world, that political world?
First,
insiders.
Let me say that as an outsider, when you look at the political world and you think, man, all these people, there's not good people. I mean, I think we all feel that at some level, right? And that's not the case. I mean, I work with some great people. Some of our elected officials are they're just wonderful people, and they're just trying to serve their community. So in that respect, my perspective has changed. If you were to ask me the thing which has surprised me the most is the fact that the quality of the individual who serves Knox County and the state of Tennessee as well is very high. Which I may not have thought beforehand, but I certainly do now. I mean, they're just really good people. So in that respect, it's changed, and obviously, I have to work with those folks. At the same time, and I was like this when I wrestled. I don't let it consume my life.
It's just a part of your life, not your entire life.
It's my job. Yeah. And therefore, I have to be involved, and I have to, I have to be just part of it. But at the same time, I have kind of a different social network. I'm really an introvert, so sometimes my social network is just myself and my wife and our dogs.
Right.
But nevertheless, I try to keep that perspective of, yes, I'm involved, and in that way, I'm not an outsider anymore. But I think what happens a lot of times is people get into a political position and then they lose touch with the people that they represent. And it's not deliberate. It's just your social circle changes and all that. And I've really tried to stay grounded with the average everyday person out there, because in the end, that's what I am too.
This question's coming, so I'm going to go ahead and get to it. After this, is there more, do you plan to continue your political path forward on a state or national level?
I don't know at this point. On a practical level, politics is all about timing. The reason I ran for mayor in the first place is because Tim Burchett, he's a dear friend of mine, and I think he did a really good job as mayor. But he was term limited. He's out of office, and an open seat like that just has not come up very often. So if that hadn't happened, I never would have run for mayor, because you're not going to beat Tim Burchett. So so much of it is timing, and that's not something I control. Also, I didn't get into this just because I want to be in politics, I want to be in government, or I want to be in the public eye. I mean, from my wrestling career, like this morning, I'm at Shoney's, and I have people just coming up and talking to me, not about being mayor, but hey, you're Kane, right? Yeah. So that part of it, to me, I mean, I'll always have that. So I think that gives me an advantage of I don't want to say I don't need a job, because I need a vocation and I need something to do.
Purpose.
Yes, but I need purpose and I need meaning. As mayor, this is a great job. You have a lot of influence over where your community is going. It's just been fantastic.
Is it better than having been or being Kane?
Well, I always say I've had the two best jobs anyone could ever hope for. Seriously, it's different, but I mean, it's just been an awesome experience. Not every government job is quite like that. So it would really depend on the opportunity, the timing, and those sort of things if I even stay in politics.
Okay, let's be hypothetical here. Of course, Marsha Blackburn running for governor, that would open up a Senate seat. If they came to you and said, we would like you to fill this seat, would you take it?
Right now, I'm not thinking about that.
Really?
No, I'm not. I mean, I still have 3.5 months left in office, and there's still a lot to be done. So I want to be working as hard my last day as I did on my first day. So those are things that if they were to happen at whatever time, I'd have to cross that bridge then.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll we'll be finding you for sure.
Sure.
One thing that you have been passionate about in Knox County and for Knox County students is reading. And you and I have had the opportunity. I've been so fortunate and appreciative of the opportunity to be with you at Reed City at some different events.
And thank you for doing that.
Thank you for asking me, because I am passionate about reading as well. Why champion reading as passionately as you do?
For the individual student, reading, especially that third grade literacy rate, is vitally important. It is an accurate metric of graduating from high school on time, and of course, then you start getting into life outcomes. People that don't read well at the third grade level have higher rates of incarceration, of addiction, of all the things that we don't want to see. So learning to read is fundamental for a young person's education, and that education really is a determinant of where their life might go. So it's important for our kids. It's also important for our community. It used to be that if a company was going to come here, they would be like, do you have the space? Do you have the building? And obviously here in Knox County, that could be a bit of a challenge. Remember when I was running for office in 2018 and people were like, why can't we get Volkswagen? I was like, can you find 1,200 non-developed flat acres in Knox County? I mean, So as an aside, we have to be selective in that area because we know we're not going to get like huge manufacturing projects like that. But what that has led us to is more innovative, more firms that are innovation firms. Back office, research and development, those sort of things. Those are highly technical in many cases, right? So it used to be that a company would say, do you have the space? Do you have the land? Now they say, do you have the workforce that can fill these jobs? And that's true across the country. So by concentrating on that third grade reading level, as well as what schools are doing with things like math at an early level, you increase your workforce's ability to fill those jobs in the long term. That, for years from now, when we're looking back in 10 years from now, and we are able to tell a company, hey, we can provide this technologically proficient workforce that you all are looking for, that gives us a huge advantage over a lot of other areas. So it's important not only for our young people, and that would be enough, but it's also important for the future, our economic vitality, future of our community, frankly.
Let's talk about, I want to get your thoughts, your opinions on school vouchers, because it has impacted the state and Knox County specifically. This is public money that is given to families to pay for private education. Do you feel Knox County public schools could suffer as a result of this?
No. In fact, what happens, and I've been a big proponent of school choice.
I know.
And competition is good in any system. And what will happen is, first of all, you might see a marginal impact, but you're not going to see, the destruction of public education like the kind of doomsayers predict. That's not going to happen. Our schools do a very good job, and really that's what it's all about, is is the public schools, by competing, they have to do better themselves. And also there's some niche areas that I've personally seen. So a friend of mine, when they got the not the vouchers per se, but the scholarships, their child has a learning disability, and Knox County Schools just doesn't have that programming, but a private school does. So they actually sent their kid to this school, which has a program specifically for this particular issue. See, I don't think it's going to have this massive impact across the board on a huge number of people, but I think that the small number of people that need it, it's going to be life-changing.
Do you think there needs to be more accountability, though?
As far as you're walking a line there, because you don't want it to get the government so involved. You know, I understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Because most recent information came that the kids in the voucher program were not performing as well as those in public schools. Because
there's an adjustment period, and we've seen that in other states. You know, so really, we need to look back in a couple of years from now. You need to look at the data, because that's happening across the country. Yeah, obviously, since you are talking about taxpayer money, there does have to be some metrics to say, okay, this is working. At the same time, you know, Knox County does not build many roads. You know, hear about, it's public money going to private firms. We pay contractors to build the roads. Now, obviously, we have metrics, and, you know, we keep up with that. But I look at it that way as well. You know, anytime that we can break a government monopoly on a certain sector and introduce competition, I think it's a good thing in the end.
What has your relationship been like with Knoxville Mayor India Kincannon?
It's been good, actually. Mayor Kincannon and I are on the opposite ends of the political spectrum.
Here and here.
But at the same time, we've been able to work together on projects that we can work together on, and then we just agree to disagree on the stuff that we can't. And, you know, there's stuff that happens in the city that I might not agree with, but that's not my purview as Knox County Mayor. I don't even live in the city. I live in the county. You know, that's her job. So I'm just not going to comment on it. And she probably feels the same way, frankly, about some county stuff. And I think one of the most important things, though, is for all of us in these positions, not just as mayors, but also one of the things that I've really tried to do when I came into office was be a convener and be a connector, you know, because it had felt like for years, Knoxville and Knox County, man, we had so much that we just missed out on. Like we were this city that had so much potential, and then we just never quite could get there. And I felt that part of the reason was we had all these great institutions, the city, the county, the University of Tennessee, the Oak Ridge National Laboratory right up the road, TVA, the Chamber. But they all worked in silos, and they all don't touch my stuff. And I think it's important you break down those silos. And you're not going to be able to work on everything together. You're not going to agree on everything. But it's vitally important for the health of our community that in the areas that you can, that you do. And we've seen it with the city and the county, and we saw it with the downtown stadium, which has been hugely successful. You know, that was a city and the county project. You've seen it with, say, the university and Oak Ridge with the UT Institute. You've seen it with TVA and some of the things that they've done just to be more integrated into our community. So, you know, sometimes you just have to put aside the politics and maybe even the personal, and Indy and I get along well, but, you know, sometimes even personal feelings and work together for the betterment of your community.
Let's talk further about that, because it's very obvious this nation is not coming together. This nation is not united. You talk about the importance in a city-county level. How important is at a national level, neighbor and neighbor, family member to family member, and how do we, in your view, bridge this gap? I know that's the $100,000 question, but I think it's, you know, people are searching for that answer.
Politics has become ubiquitous in our society, and that's unfortunate. And it used to be like I could disagree with someone and we could just disagree, and now it's literally like you're a bad person because you don't agree with me on this. And I think we have to put politics back into the box where it belongs. As a small government person, I would say that the federal government's too big and, makes way too many decisions that just impact all of us. I believe in states' rights, and I think that we would all get along better if Tennessee could do its own thing and Florida could do its own thing and California could do its own thing, as opposed to having homogenous policies, which may not work everywhere, being shoved down onto all of us. And we just have to be, sometimes we just have to be, look, I don't agree with you, but I'm not going to fight with you over this because, I understand your viewpoint. And I think that as a society, sometimes we have trouble putting ourselves into someone else's shoes, and we just, instead of, and look, I mean, there, stuff I talk with people, and I'm like, you're still wrong, But at the same time, I think that we come to snap judgments instead of saying, oh, I see where you're coming from. Now, with me, what happens is like, and you're wrong, let me tell you why, because you just told me what you thought. But at the same time, now I have a better understanding of where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But Robin, man, if I had a magic wand, it can fix that.
Would you think? I think everyone would be cheering you on. But
Yes.
respect.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to a respect for an individual, no matter who that individual is or what they believe and think. We've been talking a long time, and I appreciate every minute of this. But I want to end by asking you, what a piece of advice will you give to the next mayor of Knox County?
In my budget address, what I said was always do the right thing. And again, I may not agree with that, but always do the right thing according to your principles, according to what you believe, according to what's legal, and what's in the best interests of the people of Knox County. And surround yourself with good people. Your decisions aren't always going to be right. That's just the way it is. You're not going to be perfect, but if you make the right decision based on what you know at that time, and you surround yourself with good people who can implement the policies and do so in a way that's, do so in a way that's beneficial for everybody, you can be okay. Not everything's going to turn out like you want to. And when I say legal, what I mean by constitutional, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
I don't think anyone's going to, go outside of those lines,
right.
But that's important to me too, and sometimes we kind of forget that and we think, we can get around this Constitution thing. No, I mean, that's there for a reason. So, do things that abide by our charter, our constitutions, that you believe are right according to your principles and what is best for the people of Knox County. Obviously, I'm not gonna be in that situation to where every situation is different, I guess. So I'm not gonna be there to say, oh, I would do this or oh, I would do that, and I can't do that anyway, because that's not respecting, whoever the next person is. They have to be able to do it themselves. I would just say that you just have to keep your personal integrity and make the right decision.
Well, we are all very curious about your path forward. So I'm going to put you on the spot, and once you decide what you're doing, will you come back?
I will do that. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Now you might be disappointed.
Hey, we can talk wrestling. Hey, we're up for anything, quite frankly. But thank you, Mayor Jacobs, for your time here to talk about your 8 years of service to Knox County. Thank you for your service. We appreciate you.
This is a wonderful place, Robin, and I'm just thrilled that I've played a small part in it.
All right. Thank you, sir.